Good evening, welcome to ITV News in your part of the Anglia region.
Here's a look at some of this evening's main story. I'm wounded in no man's land and saved by a German soldier. How Will's story came to light after almost 100 years. Right, let's move on to another great story now. A notebook belonging to a Cambridgeshire soldier who lost a leg fighting on the Western Front in World War I has been rediscovered after nearly 100 years.
William Chamberlain, whose family still lives in the village of Foxton, kept notes in the months after he was wounded, along with photos and letters. His son Roy is now 95 years old. Matthew Hudson went to meet the family.
Wounded at Trones Wood, July the 30th, 1916. A little piece about him there. All about his hospital and amputations and operations and dates and everything.
Untouched for nearly a century, this notebook and other artefacts provide a link to the past for Private Will Chamberlain's 95-year-old son Roy and granddaughter Pat. Recovering after losing a leg in World War I, Private Chamberlain made notes about everything from his treatment to the card games they played, aware that in some ways he was one of the lucky ones.
And he considered himself fortunate. Yes, he said, oh, it's much worse than me. I've come out of it. I've seen through it. And I've got there, you know. And, you know, he lived a long time. So, yes, he did very, because he didn't die until he was 79.
Around 1 million British soldiers died in the Great War. In June 1916, Private Chamberlain nearly became one of them when he was hit by shrapnel while serving in France. After being wounded, Will Chamberlain lay in no man's land for 4 days before, in one of those acts of compassion which can happen in wartime, his life was saved by a German soldier who found him and helped him back to the British lines. Will then insisted that instead of being taken prisoner, the German should be allowed to return to his own side. The memorabilia came to light when his family was clearing old barns ready for demolition. It includes letters from nurses who nicknamed the handsome young soldier Joey and kept in touch with him for many years.
And now, Joey, another thing, as equally necessary as finding work, is that you have got to fall in love with somebody and get married and have a home of your own.
And Joey did marry a pretty young woman named May, allowing the Chamberlains to continue. His family say Will Chamberlain never allowed his wartime experiences to prevent him leading a full life until his death in 1971. But he suffered from appalling nightmares and rarely talked about the war. This find has allowed them to discover much more about a relative of whom they're all extremely proud. Matthew Hudson, ITV News, Foxton in Cambridgeshire.
Fascinating story, isn't it?
Fantastic find. Yeah.